Welcome to the Leading Visionaries Podcast, featuring stellar conversations with emerging and established leading visionaries. Thanks for joining us today as we celebrate and spotlight the leading visionaries who are thinking differently, seeing new possibilities, have the courage to dream big, take inspired action, and create conscious change all around the world. Now, here's your host, Anjel B. Hartwell.
Hello and welcome again to this podcast, Leading Visionaries. I'm so excited to have you here. And today we are going to do another mini-sode. I'm going to be talking to you today about creating conscious change. This is Anjel B. Hartwell, and I am your host for Leading Visionaries. So I wanted to spend a little time with you today on Think About It Thursdays to talk about this idea of creating conscious change. So as a visionary, you are somebody who is bringing in likely something that has never been seen before, potentially. It may be something completely new, and it may also be something that's an innovation or a transformation in either your industry or in some other industry that you are inspired to serve, or some other field that you're inspired to serve. And oftentimes visionaries are the ones who see where changes need to be made, the ones who see where there are challenges that others aren't seeing, the ones who see the inefficiencies or the path to efficiency, the ones who see the ways that things are disintegrating that need to be disintegrated potentially, and the way that new things can emerge to serve a higher purpose. So I want to talk to you today about what I have come to discover are the 7 C's for creating conscious change. And how do I know about this? Well, I have been creating conscious change myself for the last 20 plus years, and I have served clients all over the world who are also conscious change agents, people who have literally incarnated at this time on the planet to bring transformation across all aspects, across all fields, across all sectors of our lives. And what I have discovered is that there are 7 distinct steps that need to be taken and questions that go along with those steps. So I want to go over the steps with you. And the first step is to be clear. Are you clear? Clarity is divinity. That's what I believe. And so here's a question that I'd like you to take into your contemplation, into your reflection. Think About It Thursdays is all about taking that precious time and space to do reflection, to do inquisition, internal, rolling over in your own mind and connecting with your source of inspiration. And so we love to use the tool of curiosity and questions to be able to get deeper than we normally could be in our day-to-day efforts to keep taking action and moving and manifesting our vision forward. So the clarity question I'd like you to ask yourself is, how do you know? How do you know with a capital K, right? K-N-O-W with a capital K, what it is that you want to change or create in the world? How do you know what it is? So for me and for many of my clients, it's literally a knowing. It's a full body knowing, or we can also call it a calling, that comes often as a stroke of inspiration or motivation. And when you feel that calling, it's like an undeniable thing. It's the choice that's no choice. But we want to be clear as we possibly can be, because this is your life that you are investing into bringing this vision into reality. So let's start with clarity. How do you know what it is that you want to change or create in the world? The second step to creating conscious change is having courage. All of these are C's to make that easy for you. So the courage question is, what do you do to find the courage and to gird your own heart to go after what you want? Now, if you think about it as a visionary, as a change agent, people don't like change. Most people want to keep things the same way. And so you are often going to come up against a lot of resistance. Sometimes it's your own internal resistance, and sometimes it's external resistance. And how we get through resistance is by having courage, being in a place of having our hearts in it. If your heart is not in it, why are you doing it? We've got to be, as leading visionaries, we've got to be wholehearted in our decisions. We've got to be wholehearted in our actions. We've got to be wholehearted in our devotion to what it is that we are choosing to create in the world. And so it's very important for you to be cultivating courage, constantly cultivating courage. And for some people, spending time in nature is going to help you to have your heart more open. For other people, taking bold action and then having that bold action be rewarding to you is a way that you cultivate courage. So the question for courage is, what do you do? What do you specifically do to find the courage and gird your heart to go after what you want? The third question, or the third step in creating conscious change, is getting support through coaching or consulting. So the coaching or consulting question is, where do you go for support, guidance, or mentorship? I have been a consultant for change agents for almost 15 years now, after I got activated and had my own spiritual awakening and had my own knowing that I had to come out into the world and serve other people, to be able to communicate their vision and to be able to command cash flow and financial support for their vision. So for me, when I am in a place where it's the next iteration of my vision, just like this podcast is the next iteration of my vision, often I will need support. Sometimes it's not in the area of, like in the case of this podcast, I didn't really need support or mentorship to create this podcast. But what I did discover I required was mentorship and support in another area of my life so that I could free up my bandwidth to be able to invest and devote myself wholeheartedly with courage to the creation of this podcast. And that's just an example. The fourth step in creating conscious change is the creation of the conscious change itself. Like, what inspires you to actually act on, to create from this inspiration? And the question here is, what inspires you to take the leap and engage in what I like to call inspired action? We live in a world where we are constantly given the message that we are supposed to be grinding it out and, just do the work and keep working at it. And I am here to say, do not be seduced by the culture of busy. You do want to take action on your creation, but it has to be inspired action, not action because of action's sake, but action because you're feeling that inspiration to take that action. You must take the action when you're feeling the inspiration. Otherwise, the energy goes away. So when you are using energy to take action just for the sake of taking action, you're depleting yourself. When you refuse to take action when you get the inspiration, you're depleting yourself. The work here is in the creation process to take the inspired action when you're inspired to take that action. The fifth step here is we want to check in. So the checking in question is, how do you hold yourself accountable, assess your progress, and adjust along the way to align with what you really want? As a leading visionary, you're literally creating oftentimes something out of nothing. And so we need to have periodic checks. Periodic check-ins. Am I headed in the right direction? Am I getting an inspiration to change my course a little bit? Am I getting guidance from a consultant or a coach that is telling me that I need to step back a few steps and lay some foundation that is going to allow this to be even more robust when I do make the big inspired action to bring it more fully into the world. So we want to take those timeouts, and that's what Think About It Thursday is all about. So use Think About It Thursday, these short mini-sodes, as your invitation to be thinking about things, to be reflecting, to be considering, to be checking in. What is happening with your vision? Is it going in the direction you want it to go? What needs to stop? What needs to change? What needs to be adjusted? What needs to be further energized? The sixth step in creating conscious change is choosing the reality that you have actually created. It's a choice, and it's a choice to accept the success that you have already created. We need to consciously and continuously keep choosing our vision, keep choosing to take inspired action, keep choosing to acknowledge when we have made great strides, to keep choosing and to keep remembering that we are at choice. You are always at choice. Sometimes the choice is to stop and take a step back and put something on the back burner. I put this podcast on the back burner for almost a year before I finally came back around and had that inspired moment that said, choose to do this now. And so we want to be aware that we are always at choice, and that it's important for us, once we have started to create something, to choose to accept the success that goes along with it. And the last step is to celebrate. So the celebration question is, what do you do to celebrate when you have reached completion? And, when that completion looks like, what does it look like? Does it look like what you had originally visioned, or does it look like something else? When I created my first podcast, I did not vision it to be a 9-time award-winning podcast. Actually, my first podcast, I sold. My second podcast became a 9-time award-winning podcast. That wasn't even in my vision. So we want to celebrate all the time. We want to constantly celebrate even the smallest little successes that we have. So that's the mini-sode for this Think About It Thursday. I hope you enjoyed it. Please definitely reach out to us and become part of the Leading Visionaries community. We look forward to serving you.
Thanks for tuning in, downloading, and listening. Be sure to rate and review Leading Visionaries on Apple Podcasts and share with other people you know who can benefit from today's episode. Leading Visionaries is the premier podcast series for informing, activating, and inspiring the leading visionaries who are called to create conscious change and know that now is the best time to welcome wealth and cultivate a web of collaborative support to bring their vision to life. We invite your feedback and guest suggestions and invite you to subscribe to our mailing list to be notified of new episodes at leadingvisionariespodcast.com.